You know, issues like the burqa or the hijab have been writ large. Have they made a difference in this election campaign, Tre?
I think that the Muslim people are now becoming more conscious of the things that affect them, the policies that affect them. So the whole kind of the issue of the burqa in France, and then now the UKIP and people like the BNP saying that they want to ban it. What it's done is it's united the people to say, okay, maybe they are kind of against us. Maybe we do need to become more active and look at the policies that are best suited to the Muslim community as well as the wider community. So in a way, it was a good thing because it got people thinking for themselves, which is something the Muslim Ummah tends not to do very often.
Ashok, we've seen the rise of UKIP, but even more dangerously, the BNP at Operation Black Vote, where you try to engage disenfranchised communities on these kinds of issues. What has been the response to the BNP and rise of the UKIP on issues like the burqa and other issues to do with race and religion?
Well, I mean, there's no doubt, really, since 9/11. For the last 9 years, we've seen a rise in Islamophobia that's been fanned by groups like the BNP, but also by mainstream political parties that have chosen to shadow box with the BNP. But you can't beat the BNP at its own game. And that's the mistake that the mainstream parties have made, and what they're making again with immigration over the last week. And so we have to be steadfast and strong, and we have to be organised and mobilised in terms of that threat, and saying to political parties, you cannot do this or you don't have the black vote.
Ashok, we're going to come back to this fascinating issue, but we're going to hit the streets of London one more time, and let's hear our next question.
Most MPs come from a privileged background, so why should I believe they're going to represent my main interests?
Tre, it seems like a legitimate question. Most MPs seem like posh types, and it seems that the working class have real obstacles to engaging in the political process because the people representing them don't really seem to represent them.
Maybe those obstacles are just perceptive. If the people, the working class people, actually started to get more engaged in politics, I mean, what he just said there is the best argument for the smaller man to get up and say, you know what, I'm going to enter the world of politics. I'm underrepresented, and therefore I believe that I can become a champion and represent my people better than the people currently in government. So this is actually a good argument to get up and vote, not an argument for not voting, I think.
Go ahead, though.
There's an aspect to it also in the sense that the parties and the leadership tend to put forward candidates. But if the grassroots, you know, within the communities, put forward their own candidates and ensure that they are, you know, given an opportunity, then we may see a more representative form of leadership within the parliament.
Ashok, on this point that Dawood is making, some of the political parties have, you know, flown this balloon of grassroots elections, primary-style elections for future MPs. Is there any traction in this, or is this another case of election grandstanding?
Well, I mean, I think there is. I mean, I think the leaders' debates have shown that we can have a different style of politics. We can have, excuse me, we can have third parties coming to the fore. But going back to the whole issue of representative democracies, I mean, Tre is absolutely right. This is not a reason not to get involved. When we see a situation such as at Westminster, which is male, middle class, middle-aged, we need to use that as a reason to spur us on. At the moment, there are 2.1% of Westminster MPs that come from a African, Asian, Caribbean background. If we go back 13 years to 1979, that figure was 0.1%. So it has grown, but that should spur us further. At the next election, we should see around 25 or 30 MPs. So there is progress, but there's more still to be done.
Ashok, we're going to take a call. Anne from London, welcome to Vote Who. Go ahead, tell us your question. Al from London, excuse me.
Hi.
Hi, Al.
Hi, I'm from Narberth, not London.
Oh, my, excuse me, go ahead, Al.
My question is, none of the parties have said anything about pulling us out of Europe, and I think Europe is crushing this country.
Thank you, Al. I mean, One of the issues definitely has been Europe. A lot of that discussion has been tied into the issue of immigration. Do you think Europe is an issue that is turning people off politics, that the main parties aren't addressing the European question, Daud?
It has been an issue, on the table for many years, and the parties, if you remember, the Labour Party promised a referendum on it, and they reneged. I think on this occasion, the public should demand, that politicians should address this issue head on through a referendum. Let the people decide if they want to be in or out.
We're going to go to the streets again and see what has been exciting the people out there. Let's go to the next question.
On the basis that MPs are being paid for their lobbying, for their influence, should we be voting for them as well if they're receiving money from that source?
It was almost shocking, though, that after the expenses scandal, just before the election is called, we have this issue of lobbying and former ministers being paid. Is it another case of MPs on the take?
Yes, I mean, and some of the admissions, made by some of these people that they were like mini cabs or black cabs. You have flagged them down, and if you give the most money, they can raise a question for you.
Sounds like banana republic democracy, isn't it?
Indeed. I mean, but you had other forms of corruption, like cash for honors. Also, people were given privileges and positions within the political establishment simply because they were able to put a certain amount of money on the table. This is unacceptable.
Tre, is this a systemic issue? Is there something wrong with our political system, so wrong that whether I vote Lib Dem, Labour or Conservative, the same system is going to be in place, the same liberties are going to be taken with public coffers? This is one of the things that I think that's exciting a lot of people out there, even a lot of people who are voting. Yeah, no, the problem is with these parties, I mean, all of them, like you say, you can't differentiate between, you got to kind of choose. You know what, I've lost my train of thought again. Pick up for me.
All right, well, I mean, the thing is, what Tre's saying is that...
Yeah, is it a question of choosing the lesser of three evils? With
the expenses scandal, of course, all of the parties are responsible for the melee that has been created. But it is more the system that has to take responsibility for this. And we've got to see a reform of the system, but also we've got to see a reform of the face of Parliament. As long as Parliament looks male, middle class, middle-aged and white, we will continue to see these people believe they're born to rule. You have to remember 20% went to Oxbridge, more than 50% are doctors, lawyers and barristers. Until we change those occupations and those educational backgrounds, of course they'll believe they're born to rule.
So what's the real systemic change, though?
The fundamental flaw in the system is that the individuals who were caught with their hands in the till, there was no mechanism to call them back, to deselect them and dismiss them from the parliament, despite their corruption. We want a change that would allow the people to call them back and dismiss them when they engage in corruption.
Oh, I think the Conservative Party has been floating this idea. Tre, are people buying it?
What I would actually say is, when it comes to these parties, I know a lot of conversation has been done about the hung parliament issue, and I actually think, even though there may be short-term problems, it may not be the worst thing for this country. Like you say, a shake-up is required. The only way we're ever going to get a proper shake-up is if we have a hung parliament. Everybody gets a say, thereby allowing you to take the best from everywhere and create a better system. Yes, short-term it may be a problem, but I think that is maybe the shake-up that we did require.
We're going to go to our lines. Osman, welcome to Vote Who. What's your question?
Hello.
Hello.
How are you, Osman? Hello. Pose your question to the panel.
Actually, I've got a question about the foreign policy.
Go for it.
I'm just looking at, we're not really encouraged to vote because our foreign policy is like we follow American line and we haven't got independent foreign policy. So what do you think about that? Does it really encourage people to really, vote? Because we're going to be voting for the same old people, whether Labour, Liberal or Conservative. Thank you.